So as we were travelling the convoy, it was very interesting to see the attitude of the population in the countries that we travelled through. In Western Europe, we were mostly ignored, apart from in Austria, where the traffic police took positive delight in fining us for everything they could think of. The second we moved from Western Europe to Eastern, crossed the sea from Italy into Greece, everything changed. We arrived in Thessaloniki in Greece, and we stayed there 2 nights, and for the first time we had hospitality provided by local people. You know, we were put up in a sports hall, food was bought for us, but not just that. Local MPs, the local mayor came to see us, had a meeting with us, press came, the national television was there, we were on the news, and we did a tour along the seafront in Thessaloniki, all the ambulances the next day, which, you know, and it was someone said to us, you know, it's the first traffic jam they see in Thessaloniki, or like that, in a really, really long time, if not ever. And he said, but everybody was smiling, you know, nobody minded. And that really showed there was a sea change, a general feeling amongst the population, the people you mixed with, how happy they were to see us, and how much it meant to them that people from the West, people from Britain, were showing solidarity with Palestine in such a public way. And they couldn't do enough for us. You know, when you're going into town, you go and use an internet cafe, they don't want to charge you. People went into Pizza Hut. I'm not quite sure how they got away with this, but you know, they ended up not paying for their pizzas. I'm not sure what the top management would think of that. When we got to Turkey, it went up another level again, because Viva Palestina has a partner for this convoy, an agency, a non-governmental organisation called IHH. It's a humanitarian kind of organisation. I don't know exactly all about it, but they have connections with the current government of Turkey. I think the current President and Prime Minister were the founders of this organisation. And so they have a big organisation, a big structure, a lot of people to call on. But they also reflected what we saw of the general population of Turkey, which is a massive, massive sympathy and support for Palestine. So not only we had city tours in Turkey in 5, I think, out of Turkey's 6 main cities. We had receptions everywhere we went, major press coverage. You know, we were looked after, fed. You know, when we drove along the roads, policemen were there to make sure we knew where we were going. Right? Friendly policemen. Now here's something. You know, here's something that's a real shock. When we got onto the border crossing into Turkey, right there on the border, the media were waiting for us, and there was a reception, and there were flags and speeches, and at the border gates. Now you imagine trying to do something like waving some Palestinian flags and having militant speeches, you know, about Palestine on the border, at the border crossing. And what do you think would happen to you if you tried something like that in Britain? You know, they'd set the dogs on you, and you go straight down to Belmarsh. So that was a real eye-opener for a lot of people on the convoy, and really, you know, kind of boosted everyone's morale. And from then it was like that. You know, everywhere we went along the roads in Turkey, you'd come to it could be 3 in the morning, and you come to a major road junction, and there'd be a few people standing there with flags waiting for you to go past and waving at you, just waiting to wave at you and show you their support. When we stopped in main towns where we were having receptions, and we did city tours and all these, you know, drove around and caused traffic jams, and everyone was driving on with us, beeping and shouting, and you know, it was a real kind of carnival type of atmosphere. When we would get out, particularly in my van I was travelling, there were 4 women, and so there weren't so many women, there were some, but not that many on the convoy, and we were therefore quite a target for women in the general population. They would come specifically to us as women, and very often it was really humbling. In Turkey particularly, you know, women would come to us and cry and hug us and thank us and give us shawls they were wearing. Say, give this to someone in Gaza. And it was, you know, that's that was very moving, and it really shows you the level of support for Palestine. As soon as you get out of the stranglehold of the Western media and Western imperialism and what that does to people's minds, you really see how loved the Palestinian people are and how people feel their cause as their own all over. So I mean, one of the moments that was really moving, we were stopped. We were just sort of pulled up at the side of the road, waiting to move on. And a little girl and her mother ran up to the window and gave me a drawing. The little girl had done a drawing. Please, would I give this to some children in Gaza? So yeah, there was a real sense as soon as we got out of Western Europe, especially in Turkey, of the real, the love for the Palestinians and the joy that people felt seeing the convoy, and how much they wanted to do something for the convoy as a way of doing something for Palestine. Again, we got to the border between Turkey and Syria, and the Syrian government received us there. Syrian media was there. We had official receptions all the way along the road to Damascus. We kept stopping. Another reception, more coffee, more flowers, more presents. And the Syrian government put us up in a state-owned hotel. And in Western Europe, we'd been staying in car parks and service stations and camping, camping in the Alps, that absolutely freezing, no facilities whatsoever. If you're in one place, not even a toilet block. And the contrast again, with the way the Syrian government putting us in this really nice hotel, it was quite surreal by that point. We weren't really used to it. Everyone's rushing to get their clothes washed. And the Palestinians everywhere, once we got into the Middle East proper, then of course, among the people who were receiving us were Palestinians. And they really couldn't do enough for us, And again, it's really humbling, when you look how much they have suffered and how much they have to put up with on a daily basis. They were saying to us, they were so thankful. And I think particularly because we came from the West, and by this point we've been joined by an American contingent, as well as a very big Turkish contingent. It just means so much to them. And they were saying to us, you've given up your Christmas, you've given up your New Year, you've left your families, and but a few weeks. And the fact is that the people who can do that kind of thing is because actually they're quite privileged. They can leave their jobs and their houses are all right. They've got places to go back to, or whatever. They're okay. That's why they can do something like that. The fact is that the people who go on a convoy, by nature, they have to be fairly privileged people, actually. And certainly in relation to all the people we're meeting, they're saying about hardships we're going through, but not getting a shower for a couple of days or being a bit short on sleep, for a few weeks is not really much of a hardship, in the context of what these people suffer. But their hospitality, their dignity everywhere was amazing, and we ended up staying 5 days in a Palestinian refugee camp in Latakia. And that was fantastic, and it helped to compensate for the fact that we got so little time in Gaza proper, because we were living with Palestinians there, and their hospitality was amazing. And they were, the second we arrived, you were surrounded by people inviting you to their homes. Come and sleep, come and eat, come and let me give you a shower. The facilities here aren't good. Come to my house, let me look after you. And some people, there was one woman who was practically crying. She was, but people saying, no, I'm fine. And eventually someone said, just go to her flipping house. They so wanted to do things for us, because it felt like something they could do for Gaza, something they could do for Palestine, something, they wanted to be on the convoy. And that's another thing that is really brought home to you. The heartbreaking situation whereby, it was a little bit tricky, but we could go into Gaza, we could go into these people's homeland that they can't go into, that many of them have never seen. Or if they've seen it, in Aqaba, they see it every day. These people living right on the border, right on the edge, they're looking across occupied Palestine every day. They see Israeli tourists coming back the other way. They see all sorts of people going into Israel, into Palestine, where they are not allowed to go. And some of them, are third generation refugees. They don't have full rights in the countries they live because they're seen as a temporary population. They're refugees. They're supposed to be going home. But it's been 60 years.